you. Hi, I'm Jack Spiegelman. Welcome to Cabinet Making for Klutzes. It's called Cabinet Making for Klutzes because it's a very simple process that anyone can learn to do. It's a lot like cooking. You have a recipe, which is a drawing. You have ingredients, which are lumber, glue, screws, nails, etc. And you have various utensils and heavy apparatus with which to prepare the dish. Hammers, clamps, chisels, table saws, routers, belt sanders, and so forth. This program will show you how to make beautiful cabinets and pieces of furniture. For example, this table. This is a dining table with a trestle-style base. The lumber is white oak. Notice this wedge mortise and tenon joint connecting the stretcher to the leg units. This is the stretcher. Very classy and very simple. There's a reason for this joint. It gives you the option of taking the table apart. The top unscrews from the leg units. Likewise, the stretcher, and everything goes into the back of your car. I've written a little booklet describing the entire process. This will solve the problem of you trying to write down everything I'm showing you, and a lot of things I won't be showing you. We'll give you an address to send in for at the end of the show. Let's get started. Woodworking starts with the table saw, folks. There's no other way. You have to have a good table saw. And when you get a table saw with a good fence. This is the fence. It's half the machine. If the fence doesn't work right, the machine doesn't work right, the job doesn't come out right, and you get frustrated, maybe even hysterical. And you might give up. Don't do that. And don't be afraid of the table saw. It's not a dangerous machine. This is the most dangerous tool in the shop, believe me. A few safety tips. Don't drink when you're doing this kind of work. Wear sneakers or some sort of rubber-soled shoes. I'm wearing boots because I'm on TV. It's common sense. You know, use your head. There's a little voice inside all of us that reacts instinctively when we're doing something wrong. Pay attention to that little voice. Okay, the table saw does a lot of things. I could do a show. I could do 3 shows on this machine. But its main function is to make a straight cut in a piece of wood. Now, we have to have a straight edge first. Obviously, I mean, I can't cut this on the table saw, something like this. I have to have a straight edge first. We do that on the joiner, which I'll get to in a future show. But right now, I'm going to take this piece of wood and start cutting up some lumber for the table. Here's a base unit. It's got a foot. It's got what I call a support piece, which is exactly the same as the foot. It has an upright. This is what they look like when we put them together. Here's the upright. It's got a tenon. This is the foot. It's got a mortise. This hole is a mortise. It's a mortise and tenon joint. Goes together like that. Very easy to make. Great joint. Strong. It'll last. It's indestructible. There's a traditional way of making this joint, which is by drilling many holes, chiseling out many little pieces of wood, and it's quite laborious. Very therapeutic, but I do it a different way. I laminate the joint. I cut a piece here, which are the same, and a middle piece, which I then cut in half, separate it, glue it together, boom. It's the simplest thing in the world. The upright's done the same way. 3 pieces, the middle piece is cut in half and separated. Okay, let's cut up some lumber. Get a good tape, folks. That's important. This is not a good tape. Somebody found this in a box of candy. You know, you do this, you do that. It's no good. Get a good tape. You can read, get one you can read easily. And don't be intimidated by small fractions. You can work to very close tolerances because your eye can make that distinction. A 1/16 of an inch or even a 32nd of an inch is just a line on the tape. It's the same as an inch, a ½ inch, a quarter of an inch, you know? So I'm going to cut this piece up. I want 1 3/8 inches. I know that already. And here's how I do it. I'm going to cut these pieces first. Now, 1 3/8 inches. Here's the way to know you got 1 3/8 inches exactly. Don't take your pencil and make a mark on the wood and then try to match that up and move the fence. You're just repeating yourself. Set the fence up, take a little cut, measure that, and then make an adjustment. That's a little off, so I'll do it again. Keep your eye on the fence. Don't worry about right there, and push in this direction. A little too fast. It's all right. All the way through. I'm not done yet. One more. And now the middle piece, which is 1 inch and 5/8. Same thing. 5/8. I'll cut one of these. I'm not going to check this. I'm pushing at an angle. My eye is on the fence. I can use this. And all the way through. Okay. All right, now all the other pieces for all these pieces are cut in the same way. So when I'm done, I'm going to have 24 pieces ready to be glued together. And here they are. Okay, now I'm going to take these. I'm not going to take all of these things over to the bench and glue them up. This is very easy, folks. Very easy. If you're a little organized, that's the key. Here's how I do it. Put these down like this. Also, the upright, remember the upright? That's this piece right here. This is done exactly the same way. Okay. Here are my 4 pieces. We'll line them up sort of like this. These pieces are cut long. Don't try and cut them exactly the size, because after you glue them up, you're never going to, they're going to be a little off. So cut them long. Glue them up, then trim them to exactly the size you need. And then this is going to do this. All right, let's do it. Little glue here. Little glue over here. Put one of these like this. One of these like this. Little glue here. Little glue here. And this. Boom. Huh? Is that hard? No. Whoa. Whoa. Don't put it on too much. Some of my students, they think they're making cakes the way they put this stuff on. It's expensive, but not, you got to put enough on. Otherwise, you won't get strong joint, but, a little discretion, Now, line up these pieces, sort of even. Don't worry about these middle pieces. I've got a mark here where I want these to sort of line up. And then I'll put this clamp in. See, I can be a little off here because I've cut them big. Now, my spacer, very important. See, I'm going to get a perfect mortise here because I've cut this to the size I want for the feet. And this is for the upright. The spacer for the upright. It's a little bit bigger. Did that. Clamp. Not too tight right now. I still may have some adjustments to make. Now, when I put my upright together, the stock will be a little bit bigger than this mortise, and then we can just sand it down to get a perfect fit. Okay, I gotta make an adjustment there. That's good. That's good. All right, now I tighten my clamps up. They gotta be down nice and flat on the clamps. That's important. So check it. Uh-huh. Bang it with the hammer. Little finesse. Nothing like a little finesse, right? Get them down nice and flat. Good. And do it. Then the other set of legs, feet, are done the same way, plus the mortises. Now we'll cut the tenons. Remember the tenons that go in the mortise? Here's what it looks like. Here's the tenon. The hole is the mortise, the tenon, the upright. We're going to make this cut now. I have a jig. That's spelled J-I-G. A jig is a device you make yourself. This is called a cradle. It's great. It's like having another machine. Here's what I'm going to do. I got to make this cut. The upright, remember? The tenon. For the mortise. In the foot. How do I do it? Real easy.
How, Jack?
First I take my tape out of my pocket. And then I measure this. 6.5 inches. I measure this. 4.5 inches. That means, here's the piece I'm going to cut, that I want to take an inch off here and go up. How high? This high, right? Okay. So, I have a piece of scrap clamped to this. I have a nice fresh line where the blade's going to make its cut, because this gets chewed up, so it's not a bad idea to do this. An inch. Boom. Make a mark. Another piece, a stop block, where the mark is. Now, we make a little cut first to see where we are. Don't make your cut, find out where you are first. You could clamp this to this. I don't have to do it, you know, but you could if you want. Put a clamp across here. Don't measure with your tape. Measure right to the thing. It's perfect, actually, but I'll take a little bit more off just to make sure. Raise the blade. Not too high. A little higher. A little higher. That's good. I gotta make these cuts for the wedges. I do this right now. Unclamp this, move it over a little bit. I could just use this by eye. This is a fabulous jig. You can do anything with this. It's in my book. Okay. Here's the next cut. Boom. How do we do that? Very easy. Measure this, right? 1 5/8. Unclamp this. Make a mark. Move this over to the mark. Clamp it. Lower the blade. Otherwise, you'll have a big problem. I'm a little off on that first cut, but I'll show you how I fix it. Just move it over. Well, come on, what could be simpler? Now, I'm going to take these pieces over to the table and put them together. But I forgot to take them from the table saw. Happens all the time, folks. Believe me. All the time. So, here's what we do. The upright with the tenon. The foot with the mortise. My little wedgies right here. My little glue. And now I think this is the other piece that I was working with. I don't know if this is going to fit. I may have cut it a little bit. See, this stock is cut over the mortise, and then it's sanded down. That's the way to get a perfect fit. So I don't think I sanded this one yet. It's a little tight. I'll have to sand that with the trusty belt sander. Got to have one of these. Learn how to use it. That's the difference between a pro and, you know, the average do-it-yourselfer. Just a little bit. Move it around, nice and flat. Little glue. Here's where the strength of the joint is. These are just to kind of pry it open, give it a good fit. But the strength of this joint is here, between the shoulders of the tenon and the, you know, because it's long grain. This is end grain, but glue. Brush. Be neat, you know, why not? This is easy, folks. This is easy. And look at the result, you know? Your friends, they'll never believe it. You can't see that. Here. See the little things for the wedges? Just like I said I was going to do. A wedge. A hammer. Another wedge. I still need a third one. There's a little bit of a space there. Now, the dovetail saw, watch this. It's reversible. Look at that. You can do that, you know, flush. But if you want to do it like this, turn it around. Okay. It's fun. You could sand this down, too. You know, why not? I could throw this and it wouldn't even break when it hit the floor. Okay, I'm not going to do the other one. It's too much work. But I mean, I have to do it, but... The next step, the stretcher, the cross piece, you know, the long piece, has a tenon, fits into the upright. This tenon is made the same way as the jig, via the jig. We drill holes either on the drill press or with a hand drill. If you do it with a hand drill, you got to keep it sort of straight, you know. So that's that. Then these tapered dowels. I'm not going to show that. It's cut on the table saw with a taper jig. It's in the booklet. So once all that is done, we're ready to assemble the base units. Big moment, but I think we'll have no problem. First the base is clamped to the table via a clamp. A little piece of paraffin, a little handy thing to know. It took me 7 years to figure this one out. Wax it up, put it in. Oh, great. A little brace. Oh, wait. I want to lock this just to make sure. Our little tapered dowel. Our big hammer. It's fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's fun. Yeah.
Yes, it's fun. Okay. That goes in pretty easily. Remember, you know, the mortise is always cut a little bit under the tenon. Then you can just sand the tenon down to fit perfectly. That's the secret. And remember where you got it from. One there. I'm going to put another one here. You can't see this probably, but drive them in different directions. This one's tapered this way. The other taper goes in that way. Okay, now we're ready to glue the top together. And for that, I have to get rid of this table, put together my special setup for that. You're going to love this. Pretty nice, huh? Man, this stuff is heavy. All right, we're almost done. I gotta show you something. When you're gluing up boards, solid lumber, as opposed to plywood, there's a grain direction, ring pattern. Alternate this. That's what these marks are for. This one goes like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, huh? Like this, like this. If there's any movement in the wood, which there may be, it'll tend to neutralize it. Okay. We're ready to glue. We're standing them up on there. We try to minimize effort in this business. You know what I mean? Don't try and kill yourself. Not necessary. A little glue. This is fun. It's expensive, but it's fun. Okay. I'm not going to brush it around. You know, I'll just kind of... You can smear it. I'm going to ruin my shirt. I know that before this one's done. Okay. And then this goes down. Just rub it up against there a little bit. I may ruin my pants, too. Wait a minute. Okay. We're ready to clamp. First, one of these. Close it up. I cut them long. Doesn't have to be lined up. Cut them long, trim later. Remember that? I told you that before. These push it together. These keep it kind of flat, you know? Because otherwise you got discrepancies in there. Here's a long stud. Here's another stud. Here's another stud. If you clamp across all these studs, you get a tremendous amount of pressure on the stock. The purpose of these, they're called cleats or cawls, is to, you know, keep everything sort of in line while you're clamping so they don't jump all over the place. One there. One here. This should be at the end of the table. We're almost done. This is done. Next step is you got to sand it down after it dries. You could do that one of two ways. You could do it with your trusty belt sander. Yeah. Or, you know a guy who's got a $25,000 drum sander, you could take it to his machine and send it through, and in 5 minutes, you get this. We mount the top to the base via a lag screw and a ratchet wrench like your mechanic has. Drill a hole here, and also one in the bottom of the table. Because if you don't do that, you ain't going to get this screw into the table, because this is hard. Do that there, over here, over here, over here. Now, I've written a booklet describing this entire process, how this whole thing was put together, so you can send in for that. You can write for the address for that, which it will follow the end of the show. And I would like to end the show by saying what I said at the beginning, that cabinet making is simple. You do have to work at it a bit, though. It does require that. It's something in which knowledge originates in the fingers, via which it travels to the brain, not vice versa. And it's not a bad idea to have some decent tools, because that'll help you a lot. It also is not a life or death proposition. That's very important. Try to have fun with this work. You know, that's the whole point. Do your best. Make a few mistakes. So what? I like to see that, you know? It shows the work of a human being. Goodbye, and good luck. Hi, I'm Jack Spiegelman. Welcome to Cabinet Making for Klutzes. I want to start right away by talking about some plywood. This is not a piece of plywood. This is a piece of, let's say, regular lumber, piece of pine. It's not too straight. Regular lumber will do this, folks. It moves on you. It shrinks, it swells, it bows, it cups, it twists, it goes out of wind, it splits, it checks, and it drives you crazy. But plywood won't do that. And the reason is that it's because it's made from gluing up thin sheets or plies crosswise to each other, alternating the direction of the grain. And the result is a piece of lumber of tremendous strength and stability. It's just great. Comes in different thicknesses and facings. And it's especially useful when you're building cabinets and working with wide sections. This cabinet, for example. This cabinet is made, if we made this cabinet out of regular lumber, we'd have to glue narrow pieces together and then sand them down after they dried off, and it's a lot of extra work. But with plywood, you don't have to do that. Plus, you save money because there's less waste. Now, in this cabinet, the sides, this side and this side, the bottom shelf, the top shelf, which is covered with a piece of Formica, because I like Formica, those pieces are all made out of plywood. The sides are covered with edge banding, which is solid lumber. It's rounded, give it a little bit of a detail. And the bottom shelf is also faced with a piece of quarter-inch solid lumber. There's a book that goes with the show that I've written. You can send in for this book. It shows you all the steps of making the cabinet, so you don't have to take notes while you're watching. Now, I want to rip up this piece of plywood. Here's how you do it. It's very easy. I have the fence set to the measurement I want. I have a sawhorse, which is built to the exact height of the table, and now you lift it up and cut it. It's not heavy. Grab it like this. Now, I keep my eye on the fence when I make this cut, and I push it a bit of an angle. It's not a big deal. I'm pushing like that. My eye is on the fence. Now I get behind it. I'm still pushing at an angle. Get right up against the machine. Look at the fence. All the way through. I'm not done. Push it all the way through. That's it. Okay, nothing to it. Now the next step is to cross-cut this piece so that I get the two sides and the shelf and the top. Here's how we do that. Set the fence up, 23 1/4. Now, I want to move this horse over here to help facilitate this. We have to get rid of this piece here. Now, this is a sort of a tricky cut. It's called cross-cutting. You can do it on the radial saw. If you don't have a radial saw, you have to use the table saw. It's not hard, but you have to be a little careful because it's a narrow piece, it's long, and it's harder to control up against the fence. But watch how I do it. Piece of wax. This is a great little, this will help a great deal. It's a little thing. Wax up the table. Okay, I'm ready to make the cut. The right hand controls the cut. My eye is on the fence. All the way through. Nothing to it. I have to cut one more piece for the side and two more pieces for the bottom shelf and the top shelf, and they're cut exactly the same way. And here they are, the two sides, the bottom shelf, and the top. Okay, the next step is to figure out a way to fit the shelf and the top into the two sides. We do that via what's called a dado cut. Also, you could call it a groove if you want. It looks like this. Here's the side. Here's where the bottom shelf goes. Here's where the top goes. The bottom, then the shelf and the top get these tongues cut, which then fit into the slat. It's very easy. How do we make the slat? We do it with a special set of blades. Let's see. It's called a dado set, D-A-D-O. I don't know how that word originated, but I've already got two mounted in the saw to make my cut 1/4 inch wide. These other blades come with the set, so you can make cuts up to 13/16 and all the way in between. It's a very good investment. I suggest you get one. Now, I'm all set up to make that cut for the bottom shelf. I'll turn on the... Use a piece of scrap first. That's important. Keep it down nice and flat. My square is set to 1/4 inch. The cut should be a little bit deeper so we get a tight fit. So, it's not quite deep enough. Raise the blade. Make the cut again. That's pretty good. All right, now, I'm going to make the cut. Nice and flat on the table, up against the fence. Slow. You're cutting across the grain. You don't want to tear out the lumber. Okay. Now, the other cuts are made exactly the same way on both the sides of the machine. The next step is to make grooves for the edge banding. I'll do that over on the assembly bench. I need this and this. Edge banding, what is it? We talked about it a little bit earlier. It's the spacing on the cabinet. It's slightly rounded. Also, the bottom shelf gets a piece of 1/4 inch edge banding right here. And the way we do it is via these grooves with that I'm going to cut with the router. See these grooves here? These are cut with the router, and then the edge banding fits into that. So let's do it. I'll take this piece. Maybe I'll take this piece. I'll take this piece. Put it down, clamp it nice and tight. Now the router, folks, you have to have one of these. It's a great tool. I have an 1/8-inch slotting cutter bit in the router, and here's how you use it. It's very easy to control. You turn it on. You know, it's rotating at high speed. You just let it down like that. Turn it on. Hold it in one hand. Turn it on. Put it down and make your cut. But the secret is, don't rock it. Keep it nice and flat. And you get a perfect cut. And don't start it here. Don't put it down on the stock, then start it. Start it up here. Nothing to it. The bottom shelf is done in precisely the same way. You do both sides and then the bottom shelf. And here they are. Okay, the next step is to glue the edge banding to the two sides. Also, remember, folks, when you make these grooves, make sure you make them on the slots for the edge banding. Make sure you make them on the right side of because otherwise, we want these dados to line up. Otherwise, you wind up with two left sides or two right sides, and that's no good. So we'll glue the edge banding to the two sides, also the bottom shelf. I won't show that. Here's the edge banding for the sides. It's very important that this stuff is cut, the edge banding is cut wider than the plywood, because after we glue it up, we want a little bit of a lip. So that's very important. And this tongue here is just to key the edge banding when you glue it up, so it doesn't slip around when you're gluing it up. Okay, so let's do that. We can do both of them at once. Line these things up together. Take your edge banding, put it down, put a little glue on it. Okay. This is real easy. As long as that tongue is centered and you'll get a perfect joint. Take the brush, spread it around, you know. This, nothing to it. It's fun, actually. Yeah. Okay, set it here. Tip one up like this. This is the bottom of the cabinet. Don't do this. This is the top. We want to have this little notch for the rail. So do that. Tap it in. Set it down. Do this. Same thing. Put it at the bottom. Tap it down. Now make sure that these are flush at the bottom, because then we'll wind up with exactly the same distance at the top on both sides. That's very important. Okay. And we clamp it up. Now these clamps should be at the end of the stock. Don't put the clamp over here in the middle and this one over here. Spread them out towards the end. Clamp it up. When you see the glue start to squeeze out, you got a pretty good. Don't destroy it. Don't crunch it. Wipe it off. Got a little bit of a lip. That's what we want. Now take this and stand it up. Out of the way. Okay. The next step. And the shelf is done exactly the same way. We want to sand the edge banding with the belt sander. I'm going to show you a great little jig to clamp this to the table. Oh, let me just talk about let me do this first. I'll clamp this to the table. This is a great little thing to know. Piece of 1/2-inch plywood. These are tapered. The reason will become apparent right now. Nail this one in here. Don't nail this one in. Clamp it in. Pop it out. Boom. Nothing to it. Okay, the belt sander. Very important tool. You have to have one of these. With the belt sander, the router, and the table saw, you can build anything. Believe me. This machine, it takes a little practice, but it's just tremendous, versatile machine. So here's how you do it. sand the edge banding, not the plywood, you know. 2 hands. Don't start doing this. You know, you'll go through that veneer very quickly. Keep it flat, a good rhythm, and move it around. I'm sanding the edge banding, not the plywood. Perfect. Okay, take it out. The other side's done exactly the same way. Okay, now the next step, move this out of the way, is to radius the edge banding with the router. Here's how we do that. Here's a piece that's already been sanded down on both sides. Clamp it to the table. You take the router, another router. Remember, keep this cord loose. You know, don't start doing this and all of a sudden you're tripping all over the place. This is it's a radius bit, 3/8 inch radius bit, and it's already been set. You should try it first with a piece of scrap. I won't do that, but you should do that. Turn it on. Keep it nice and flat. Then we'll turn it around and do a bit of the other side. Clamp it down again. Remember, keep this flat. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't step on the thing. Sure. Okay. I missed it a little bit there. I didn't go all the way to the end. But you can see the result. Here, it's a better shot. Get a perfectly round edge there. Okay, the next step. I'm going to cut the tongues on the shelf, the bottom shelf and the top shelf. And this is what I mean. Remember, we cut the dados over on the table saw? We cut this tongue next. That fits in here like this. You see that? And we're going to do that. Going to do that over here on the shaper table. Okay. This is a router mounted to the bottom of a table. Now, when you buy a router, make sure you get an extra base to go with it, because then you can use it as a router as well as a shaper. Buy an extra base. You can unscrew this, and you don't have to take the base out all the time. So I've already got it set up. Oh, here's the other shelf. We'll try it first with a piece of scrap. Turn it on. Now remember, we want to cut this exactly to 1/4 inch. We cut the dado a little bit deeper. But this should be exactly 1/4 inch. That looks pretty good. Okay, so we'll do the whole shelf. There's the tongue. Here's the groove it goes in. Perfect fit. Then you do cut the other tongue on the other side. I'm not going to show that. It's done exactly the same way. And now I'm ready to assemble the cabinet. Before I do that, any finish sanding or scraping, this is a good tool. I could do a whole show on this tool. You should get one of these. It'll save you a lot of tedious hours of sanding. But all that should be done now before you put the cabinet together, obviously. All right, so let's do that. Let's put a little glue down. A judicious use of the glue. Not too much, not too little. A little brush. It's fun. It's the idea. Put it in. That's the bottom. The tongue is down, not reversed. The other one goes in. Now we put some glue up here. Up here. Spread it around. It's kind of fussy work, you know, but we get into some brute force later on in the next show. Do this. Make sure it's flusher, very important. Okay, I've got maybe I'll draw a little line here just to line me up where I want to drill these holes. Countersink with the little battery-driven drill. Great. A drywall screw. They're great. A magnetic bit. It's great. It's like a third arm. Look at that. It took me 6 years before I discovered that. Not too far. When you get towards the end, ease off a little bit. When you see a little glue squeeze out, then you got it. Then we'll plug this up and sand it. That's next. All right, now I'm going to screw here, two here, turn it over, and do the same thing on the other side. Don't worry if you can't do it as fast as I can. I've had many years of practice at this, folks. Tired. Okay, next thing is we plug up the holes with these little plugs, which are cut from these little dowels. Make sure you don't drop these on the floor and trip over them. You know, that's how you get hurt. Okay, little glue. Then we'll sand them down with the belt sander. I'll show you that. Little plug. Little tap with the hammer. Clamp it to the table. Good idea. Get a box. You can start sanding right away. Maybe I'll wipe it off just a little. Nah, it's all right. I'll just sand. You can start this right now. Can you see that? It's perfect. It's beautiful. And I'm going to do all the others the same way. You know, just like I did before. So, don't be upset if you can't do as fast as me.
Tired. That's a lot of work.
All right, the next step, we're going to put the back in. First, make sure these joints are sanded nice and flush with the old belt sander. Two, we take the old router, the trusty router, and this is a special bit. It's called a rabbiting bit. Makes a 3/8 inch rabbiting cut. Turn it on. already been cut. The corners are round. What do? Do you chisel them square? No, just round off the side of the back. You can use this little rabbit plane. Great tool. Boom, 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 boom. Put it in. Pretty good fit. That'll square it up. Then just nail it in with a few nails. A little bit of an angle there, folks, because you don't have much to nail into. I'm not going to do all these nails. Just a few. All right, you know, a few more probably. Then, that stiffens up the whole cabinet and makes it square. That's how you get a square cabinet. We glue on the front rail. That's easy. You put the glue, you take the rail, you put the glue on. Spread it around a little bit. Even with your finger, it's all right. Won't hurt you. Clamps. Gotta have a lot of clamps. It's fun to buy tools. It's the best part, actually. Can never have too many clamps. It's a cabinet maker's little saying. Okay, number 3, contact cement on the Formica, then on, which goes on the top of the cabinet. You have to put it on the Formica and the cabinet. Takes about 20 minutes to dry. Slop it on. Great stuff. Make sure you get plenty on there. It's called contact cement because when it makes contact, you got a bond. If you don't get it right, you got problems. I got to wait 20 minutes for it to dry. So I'll wait 20 minutes. All right. 20 minutes. Okay. We'll put the top on. The last step. I'm going to do that over here. Remember, folks, this is contact cement. As soon as it goes down there, you got a bond. So, these little sticks, nice little trick. Put them on. Then you don't have to be so careful. You can just drop it down. Position it so that there's a lip all the way around. I think that looks good. Then one at a time, take the sticks out and press down. Take the trusty roller. Don't be alarmed. And yet another router with yet another router bit. This is a trimming bit. Trims it absolutely flush. The little bearing. Feel is soft, it's high gloss, comes with protective coating. Folks, I have a confession to make. There's a drawer, but we don't have time to make it. But all the information you need is in the booklet. So get a pencil and paper, because at the end of the show, we'll give you the information you need to get the booklet. Goodbye, and good luck.